This isn't available in the United States unless you go on because it's published in the UK. It's a small press. Please support small presses. I think Brexit may even be an issue, but I think there's some challenges getting it into bookstores in the United States. We're working on it. But you can go online, Powell's, Barnes & Noble, Amazon. There's one more, but those three definitely. And there's an ebook version, but not yet an audiobook version, but we're working on that too. Yay! This book is a very strange book for me to have written because I am not a 16th century gay playwright. I'm just not. So the main thing you need to know that as I read, I am not the lovely individual you see today. I am Christopher Marlowe. It is really great having him, co-author this because, people will buy this book with his name on the cover. It's really cool. This is going to be from chapter 2, and you might recognize somebody else in here. Okay. Let's be clear. I knew exactly who Richard Baines was when he sat down next to me. We had worked together abroad on the Queen's business. He was a provocateur. On this day, I was the man he meant to provoke. He offered to fill my pipe with tobacco. I had no illusions when he leaned over his ale in the dark corner of the tavern, the firelight casting ribbons of orange light across his pockmarked face, as he whispered his infernal question. But it had been near upon 5 years since the Armada spell, and I no longer cared what happened. It was winter of 1593, the plague year. I'd mastered the art of the sneer in the face of quarantine marks chalked on the doors of friends. Mm-hmm. I did meet the Algonquin chiefs at Master Harriet's house. He smiled, that rat smile that has no feeling, only the bones under the skin holding the pink of his lips in position. Wow. You are quite brave to converse with such savages. Not especially. I placed my hand on the round pommel of my dagger, but it would do me no good. Baines would give me no excuse to fight him. Violence did not suit his purposes. I meant morally, he said, his eyebrow raised. You must be joking, given what we've both done. He whispered, I do not speak of venal sins of the bedchamber. I regarded the fine stitching on his doublet, his warm cloak. I was not fooled for a second by his conspiratorial wink. Nor do I. Will Shakespeare and some few diverse players came in at that moment. The small piece of my soul that still had a care for my safety thought to get up out of this infernal corner and join them at the fire. Will and I were not close friends. I do not think he was really close to anyone. Not a bad actor, good voice, passable leg. But he was the sort who everyone met and no one knew. He could have been a government man himself, were he not so stupid and Christ-like. But panic grew inside me like a wart on my heart. I tilted my head, brushed Baines' leg ever so gently with mine, and gave him a smile as false and skeletal as his own. Did you offer to fill my pipe? I did, said Baines. I offered my pipe to him. All those who love not tobacco and boys are fools. Say you so? I swear it. Baines lowers his lash to his cup. He meant to look flirtatious, but I knew that glance well. He was trying to hide the triumph in his eyes. He could not know that this fish was swimming toward the hook, not away. His hands did not tremble as he unlaced the top of his pouch. The sweet, strong smell of the leaves made me glance away towards the fire. Will was looking at me. He raised his eyebrows, but he did not move. I wondered if he knew who Baines was. Will always saw more than you thought he did. He turned back to his friends, and I turned back to my self-destruction. I lit my pipe. It was heavenly. The Algonquin do not conceive the world as Christian men do. It would be imprecise to call their views heresy. Their imagination resembles that of the noble pagans who lived before Christ. They have stories older than Adam's creation, assuming that the date can be reckoned by counting the years the scripture says the patriarchs lived. You share their views on the age of the earth? There we were, dangling on the precipice. I see no compelling evidence to contradict them. The truth must be in scripture, said Baines. Come, man, we are friends. Speak plain. We were not friends. I tasted my drink. What did old Sir Francis Walsingham say about speaking plain? Baines leaned forward as if he would kiss me, like Judas Iscariot. I have heard whispered some of your thoughts about the nature of Christ. Which thoughts? I said, the honey taste of the ale filling my throat. That Mary was a bawd, and that Christ and John the Evangelist might have been lovers. And now that lax attendance at services won't be tolerated, neither will dangerous speculation about the age of the planets, nor a defense of Greek love. Baines' eyes narrowed. He moved away on the bench, dropping all pretense. Atheists are as trustworthy as papists. Which precise blasphemy would you like me to repeat to your masters? I snarled at him. Shall I say religion itself is a sickness? A gloved hand rested on my shoulder. Kit, come join us, said Will Shakespeare. Stay out of this, Will. Yes, Master Shakespeare, said Baines, by all means, let him speak. Miracles finer than those of the saints are performed by the men who visit with Master Harriet. You've had a lot to drink, Will said, urgent, with a subtle hint of command. I gaped at him in shock, but I spoke no more. Who guessed Will Shakespeare was gifted? No matter, said Baines, rising. Your friend has said more than enough for my purposes tonight. Baines gave a little bow. I lurched to my feet, knife in my hand, but Will was somehow in the way. Then Baines scurried off to report my words to whatever thought master he served. Indeed, what was the point of fighting it? Come, death, and welcome. Were there a just God or any God, I would be extinguished from this earth before I could do more harm. I'll take you home, Will said, but I staggered out of the tavern into the dark, empty street. Will found me some hours later, lying drunk in a carriage rut in the road that ran through Shoreditch into London. He lay down beside me though the ground was cold with frost. He was always companionable in drink. I should have let you stab him. It would not shut him up. It would if he were dead. I opened one eye to look at him. When did you go all bloodthirsty? I understand the danger you are in, said Will, better than you know. You couldn't possibly. And then I remembered the one reason he could. Are you a Catholic? Is that why you stay clear of university? Will folded his hands over his heart. I obey the law and I love my queen. Will Shakespeare, a secret papist. Will sighed. You can be so literal sometimes. It was something Thomas would say. I put my thumb up to the brilliant star where no star should be in Cassiopeia. That star had existed before we did the spell. Astrologers all over Christendom wrote of the brilliant new light, the fiery trigon, the harbinger of the new and better age of mankind. I remembered showing it to Anne lying in the grass on a warm night. I remembered my schoolmasters arguing that it could not be there. Aristotle had said the realm of the stars was fixed and unchanging, and yet there it was, brighter than Venus, visible by day for weeks. I remembered when it faded in 1574. But there it was again, the Stella Nova, brand new, blazing in Cassiopeia as if it had never left us. The night was deadly clear. There wasn't even any moonlight. It was not just the Stella Nova. The constellations were no longer the shapes I knew. Will was gifted. Perhaps he could see what I saw. Do the stars look wrong to you? You look wrong to me. Be serious. He regarded the sky and shook his head. What do you see that looks wrong? Everything. You are drunk, Will said. I know all the stars. I am a mage. Well, aren't we grand? Do you remember the new star that appeared when we were young? He patted my bare hand with his gloved one and got up. I am cold, and the constable will be here soon, all the noise you made. He gave me a nudge with his foot. I arose, feeling the world around me giving away. Does Henslow keep your plays? Pardon? The old scrolls the actors use, the text you give the registry. The ones we use the most, sure, why? Because I have been looking for reference to the fiery trigon in astrological texts and checking navigational maps, and I can't see any reference to that star appearing suddenly and slowly vanishing. And you think one of your poet friends put one in a play? Possibly, I said. It's one of many possibilities. Will looked up. Church doctrine says Aristotle is correct and the heavens are immutable. You can speak freely to me. Will gave me a significant glance. I just did. With the evidence before you, a star that appeared and disappeared and reappeared, you shrug. I am not Thomas Kidd, he said softly. I don't love you enough to risk prison for you. The hairs prickled on my forearms. It was cold. Take me to the rose. He put a hand on my shoulder and looked me in the eye. What will the plays tell you? I stumbled and fell. The icy ground jarred my knees, and the pain sobered me. The glint and the frost in the ground mirrored the glint of the altered stars. I, a mere juggler, no god or prophet like Moses, had made and unmade stars. What else must have changed? Will, I asked, who wrote the Spanish tragedy? I don't know that play. I leaned over and vomited. Well, perhaps I was a little drunk. Will pulled my hair out of my face and made vague noises. Thomas wrote a play, I said numbly. I didn't know that. Burbage did it 3 times. It was popular. Will offered me his hand. I stared at it, but did not move, nor look him in the face. God's teeth. You were in it, Will. You played Balthazar. Now I looked truly unnerved. I shook him hard. Anne would have kicked me, but Shakespeare was an even-tempered man. All right, I'll take you to the rose. Just stop doing that. It was easy to break into the theater at night, although it was dark and full of odd items to stumble over. Will found a box of old scrolls and a candle. We sat down on the stage in the starlight of the roofless pit, and we went through the scripts together. He kept the light trimmed and the smoke out of my eyes as I read every line. Most were actors' sides, which only contained the lines of the single character. None of them were from Thomas's plays, but that meant nothing. I couldn't be sure the stars were changed either. Whether talking to someone else without talking to someone else from the night of the Armada spell, but they were scattered. Raleigh was in and out of prison. Harriet hunted his missing colony in America, and Matthew was on the continent. Providence alone knew where Dee was. I was the only one left in London. Will found a bottle of old wine hidden among some prop swords. He poured some in a gilt-painted wooden cup. It wasn't bad for the stuffed player's drink. Might I speak plain? I put my hands to my sore eyes. Is it possible to stop you? This is School of Night business, isn't it? That's not what they're called. I made the name up. He grinned. What do you call them? It's not safe to know about them. You have been babbling about spells gone wrong and witch masters for a long time, Kit. He glanced down at his hands. You'd be better off seeking wisdom from men of the theater than that of the great and grand. We value what you are, not what you do for us. Thank you, Master Shakespeare. Your wisdom is beyond price. You did some sort of spell, and you think it changed the plays and the stars and maybe other things. Maybe not, I said. I don't understand exactly what it did. Lord Manteo taught it to Thomas Harriot, who taught it to me. It seemed to work. At least we weren't invaded, but now those who ordered it done have turned to the likes of Richard Baines to solicit my confession of heresy. They fear English Catholics more than ever, said Will. I was unkind to you about that. Oh, they fear atheists too. You shouldn't drink in public if you cannot keep your mouth shut. I rose and staggered to the middle of the stage. Stand still, you ever-moving spheres of heaven, that time may cease and midnight never come, I shouted. I spun around, and the theater spun with me. You are not Faustus. Oh, so you remember my Faustus, but not Kid's Spanish tragedy. Will shifted uncomfortably. It might not mean anything. We perform 5 plays a week. I've acted or managed nearly all of them. If you didn't keep aloof from your creations, you'd understand. I'm a scholar, not a player. You're about to be a prisoner, so I wouldn't put on airs. I sank heavily to my knees on the stage. I'd drunk enough that the walls kept spinning after I stopped. Men like us need patronage, Will. I am not a magician. You could be a merchant of light, I said. You're gifted, and not merely with words. I know men at Cambridge who were reckoned brilliant men who had not half your mind or your talent. I pay my own way, he said. You scratch out rubbish for pennies. Better that than be at the mercy of powerful men. You could be more. Will sighed. He leaned back on his hands and looked up at the stars. We make our own rough magic here, I think. Change minds, change hearts. There's power here too, Kit. I thought you understood that after Tamerlane. You mean after the thugs took my words and used them to harass Dutch Protestant refugees? Well, I don't mean that particular incident. Will's breath was visible in the air between us. He rubbed his hands over his candle. I hate your colleagues. They are poison. The venom in his voice stung my eyelashes. It couldn't be tears. I was too tired for that. What do you want of me, Will? Walk away. There's no one on the bankside who wouldn't fight for you, no matter what trouble you're in. I put my head down and closed my eyes. You're not a fool, Will. Stop pretending you are. I am a fool, Will said, stroking my head. Poor, lonely fool, ignorant of the grand designs of the realm. What does it matter if the stars have changed, or are, as Aristotle said, forever fixed? Isn't it enough I erased Thomas's life? That wasn't you, Kit. That was the authorities. I'm going to stop here. Thank you very much.